Hey everybody, I'm John Sabino here with the Lafayette Sports Network. I am not 30 feet up in the air at K-Mine Stadium. I am actually in my house doing this over Zoom, and I have head coach Tim Reilly, first-year head coach of the baseball team here at Lafayette. Tim, how are you doing today?
Good, John. I'm excited to talk to you about this 21 recruiting class.
Awesome. Yes, that is why we were here today. We were talking about baseball signing day, the class of 2025. And Tim, first question for you. It's pretty obvious. I bet you didn't predict your first year of being a head coach would look anything like this. Tell us how it's been going for you and your team on the Hill.
Yeah, no, it's obviously very different, but I think everybody across the country is dealing with it. And we've had to adapt to new ways of doing things. I think the guys have done an incredible job of staying focused on our season and what that might look like. Obviously, that's still up in the air and what it's going to look like. But, um, we've been doing this. We've been meeting on Zoom. We've been having team meetings and going over different um, things that I wanted to put in place and different ways to run certain defenses or offenses. We've done pitching and offense meetings. So it's been very different. It's not ideal, but I do think that the guys are hungrier than they ever have been to get back on the field and start playing again.
Well, I can't speak for the guys, but I can say for us in athletic communications, we are also hungry to get back out on the field and back to getting out of our comfort zone on the couch and back onto the field. So honestly, let's go right into it. Let's start right in the class, and we're going to go alphabetically by last name. So first up, we have Chase Barley. He's a left-handed pitcher from New City, New York. What can you tell us about Chase?
Yeah, so Chase, we wanted to add a left-handed pitcher to this class. Chase is 6'3", tall, lanky pitcher. We just had a kid, J.P. Woodward, signed with the Phillies that kind of fit the same mold. You look at the World Series, you got Clayton Kershaw and Blake Snell, these tall, lanky pitchers. And Chase, what was exciting about Chase was Chase just started pitching. He just started pitching in his sophomore year. So his ceiling is extremely high. What jumped off for me right away, just in our early conversations with Chase, was how hard he works. A friend of mine, Sam Sharf, who runs a team, really reached out and said, you might want to take a look at him. Chase is extremely bright, doing really well in school. And saw some video of Chase. I liked it. It's been a different year because we don't know what the competition is that these guys are playing. But the reports I kept getting and the video I kept seeing was, 10 strikeouts a game, 13 strikeouts. So we knew he could command the zone. We knew he was going to throw strikes. Chase goes to a facility, RPP, Rockland Peak Performance, in New York, and he works out for Nunzio Signore, who runs that program. And they do a really good job of weight training and nutrition. And they've really gotten into pitch development, and they do an excellent job. And I can see already he's starting to put on weight. He's starting to develop. One of his coaches over there is actually Ari Kaufman, who pitched here not too long ago. So we really had a good feel for Chase, his personality, his kind of work ethic. He's from Clarkstown North High School. And we're really excited that Chase is joining us next year.
No, you mentioned J.P. Woodward. Yeah, again, that tall, lanky left-hander is something you always want in your rotation. Next up is Easton Brenner, who's an outfielder from Houston, Texas. How did you find Easton? And I just got to ask, did he choose Lafayette purely based on his first name?
Yeah, that was actually when we first spoke. It kind of came out that that's where we were located, which was an interesting coincidence. But Easton's one of those guys. We have 3 guys on the roster right now from Texas. So he's one of those guys. We've been getting into that area, and we've started to have some contacts in that area, and just through phone calls and different conversations, looking for an outfielder in this class, a couple outfielders. Easton's name popped up. Easton's one of those guys. He's from Lutheran South Academy in Texas. He's one of those guys that on video you go, wow, the first time you see it. A super athletic kid, played 4 sports in high school, 2 of them for 4 years, baseball and football. He ran track for a couple years. He played basketball for a couple years, but that's just the tip of the iceberg on what kind of athlete Easton is. The thing that jumped out to me about Easton, to be honest with you, yes, he's super athletic and his video is super impressive. In my early conversations with Easton, this guy couldn't stop talking about his teammates and the people in his school. And that's one of the things that we place a high priority on, is this selfless kind of athlete. And he talked more about his teammates and his coaches than he did anybody else or and his parents. So we got a chance to meet over Zoom with him and his parents and his little sister. and it instantly felt like this guy's part of the family already. And he fits the mold of what we're looking for in the outfield. He flies, he can really play defense, and he swings the bat. So we're really lucky to have Easton coming in next year.
No, that's excellent. Yeah, that team camaraderie is something that's always really important when you're trying to build something, especially with an incoming freshman. Next up, we have another pitcher on our list. It's Jack Mcmullen. He's a right-handed pitcher from Ohio. What can you tell us about Jack?
Yeah, so Jack comes from Chagrin Falls High School, which is actually the high school of Jack Amendola, who's a sophomore outfielder for us right now. Jack has some strong ties to Lafayette. So his uncle is Hal Kamine, who, if you're a Lafayette baseball fan, I don't have to tell you who Hal is, played baseball here. Both his sons, Matt played baseball here, and Justin, Matt was a great pitcher here, and Justin played soccer here. So he has that tie already. I got to meet Jack last fall. He's one of the few guys that we actually got to meet with in person because of how everything happened and when it happened. We didn't really get to have visits with guys on campus. But Jack actually came to a camp in the fall. We met with him and his father. And again, had that click immediately of personality. Jack is a raw athlete. He was somebody that we wanted to stay on. He's a two-sport athlete. The thing that stood out to me about him is he knows how to win. He's played 2 years of basketball, 2 years of baseball because his junior year got cut. And he's got 2 conference championships in basketball and 2 conference championships in baseball. So he's a guy that knows how to win, knows what it takes. He works his butt off. We're constantly talking about, mechanics and things that he's been working on. And slowly you started to see him start to add strength. They started to add velocity. He's one of those guys who, baseball's going to spin metrics and things like that. His spin rate's extremely high, throws hard breaking balls. We're really excited about Jack's development and his potential. And again, he was just one of those guys that, again, from a personality standpoint and a work ethic standpoint, fit perfectly with what we were trying to do.
All right, now this next question is a little off of the signing day, kids. I know in your past years here, you've been the pitching coach. Now you're the head coach. And my question to you is, how important is it to have a balanced rotation or your bullpen of right-handed and left-handed pitchers? Because right now we have one left-handed, another right-handed. We have another right-handed pitcher coming up. And obviously we lost some with graduation, things like that. How important is it to have that balance in your rotation and bullpen?
Yeah, it's important. I mean, number one, we place most of the emphasis on your ability to pitch. I mean, just because you're left-handed, if you can't pitch, I'd rather take the good righty over the guy that can't pitch who's left-handed. But you do want to have a balance. You do want to have guys. Lefties are tough to hit. You don't see a lot of lefties, so they're tougher to hit. It's coming from a different angle. We have some right-handed pitchers, and something that you look at is matchups, right? It's not always going to be, all right, righty, lefty, lefty, righty. You're always looking for, if this righty has a really good changeup, he's going to be tougher on lefties. So we don't put a ton of, okay, we have to have this many lefties. You do want to have some because they are going to be tougher on lefties in certain situations and certain hitters. Some lefties are even tougher on righties than righties are on righties, just because righty hitters don't see them very often. So you look for that balance. But when we recruit pitchers and when we look at different pitchers to come out of our pen or be in our starting rotation, we're really looking at how their stuff plays against that type of hitter rather than, okay, just the old, it's a lefty up, so let's bring the lefty in. If we have a righty that's got a good changeup and is tougher on lefties, then that lefty in the pen will stick with him.
No, it's good to know. That's really important. So now we're going to go behind the plate. We're going to go with Peter Meyerson. He's up next, the catcher from Norwalk, Connecticut. What does Peter bring to the table?
Yeah, so catching was a big position in this class for us. Pete, right off the bat, he's from Bree McMahon High School up in Norwalk. He's a big physical catcher. He's 6'2", 190, 195 pounds. Again, one of those guys, he loves the weight room. His work ethic is through the roof. He's in there every day and working hard. He loves to talk about it. What struck me right away with Pete was his maturity. This guy is a leader on his team right now. He's a leader. So I got to know Pat Vigilio, who runs Baseball U Connecticut. I've known him for a while. He reached out about Pete. Pete was actually playing some different positions, which I like because I don't want if you're a catcher, there's sometimes you can not be the best athlete if you're stuck behind the plate. That was me. But he plays some outfield, plays some first base. He can run. He has good wheels for a catcher. And what stood out is he could really swing the bat. You know, he was a really offensive player. He can hit the ball over your head. He can hit for average, and he can run the bases. But again, when I first met him and first spoke with him, his coach, Coach Virgilio, mentioned this to me, that he was extremely mature. Just talking to Pete, the way he thinks about baseball is different than most high school kids. He has a really good thought process when it comes to calling a game. We had a long conversation on calling pitches. A lot of guys call it baseball IQ. It was pretty evident that he had a really good baseball IQ. So we're really excited about Pete and what he brings to the table. You know, he's going to have an opportunity to come in and play back there right away. And I'm excited that his personality and his work ethic is going to be part of this class.
Oh, excellent. He sounds like a great all-around player. Now we're going to move into the infield, and we have Ben Patron from Princeton, New Jersey. What can you tell us about Ben?
Yeah, so we've known Ben for a long time. We've been recruiting Ben really since he was a sophomore. Saw him play first when he was a sophomore. So Ben's another guy out of the, I think, 3 that we were able to meet with on campus, came to a visit. We offered him early. We were really looking, so Ben stood out defensively first. At a really young age, he could pick it. He could throw the ball across the infield, had great range, great quickness and twitch. But Ben, again, another guy who just, he's humble, but he plays loud. You know, he plays hard. He plays the game the right way. He's a lefty hitting shortstop, which is a bonus. So when we started to recruit Ben, really what we were looking for is he going to get stronger? Is he going to get physically stronger? During this, you know, COVID pandemic, everybody's been in a different situation. Some guys have been shut in with nowhere to work out. They've had to get really creative. Ben's one of those guys who, you know, you look at, are you going to come out of this where you were or weaker, or are you going to come out of this even stronger? And he was one of those guys that was able to get really creative. And we've been super excited at the good weight and the strength that he's put on. He's really taken ownership of his development. And we're really excited that, you know, Ben's going to be a really good player in our infield.
Well, it'll be interesting to see him in the infield with players like Ethan Stern and Justin Johnson. But now we're going to go back to the mound. We have Joe Scapanens, a right-handed pitcher from Far Hills, New Jersey. What does Joe bring to the table?
Yeah, Joe's from Gill St. Bernard's in New Jersey. 6'4", right-handed pitcher. Joe's a kid that I've seen play longer than anybody else. I've been watching Joe play since he was 12, 13 years old. So Joe's parents, both of them went to Rutgers University, which is where I'm an alum from. And Joe's dad, Brett, actually was a baseball alum of Rutgers. So I've known his dad for a long time. And if I was at an event and there was a little league field at the complex, I'd end up seeing Joe play a little bit at a really young age. So I've seen Joe kind of grow up. We really started recruiting him about a year ago because he shot up, he started to fill out and get stronger, and really started to have some feel in the zone and develop some velocity. And it's just a testament to how hard he works. And you know, again, like the other guys, the ownership that he takes in his development. He plays for a summer program, the Locked In Expos, that we recruit from a lot. You know, you mentioned Justin Johnson. He's a Locked In Expo. Justin Weiss, who's a sophomore catcher for us. So in this year, if you notice, I'm going to talk a lot about these guys' coaches. We really put a lot on people that we knew, guys that we had talked to in the past, to get to know these guys and what makes them tick and what kind of personality they have. It keeps coming back that Joe is one of the hardest workers, one of the best teammates that's around. And his development as a pitcher has been, you know, steadily increasing. So Joe can also swing the bat. So he's played a little bit of first base and he's got a pretty good swing. Now, I think his biggest impact is going to be on the mound right away, but he's going to get a chance to swing it, and that's just a bonus.
It's always nice when you have a pitcher who can hit, right?
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Of course. Now we're going to go back to the outfield with our second outfielder in Caleb Willis, who is from West Hampton, New Jersey. What can you tell us about Caleb?
Yeah, so Caleb, again, he's ran Cocos Valley Regional High School in Jersey. Played for Combat Scanzano. John Scanzano's his coach, another coach that I've known for a long time. He called me and had great things to say about Caleb. Caleb visited in the fall. Again, we got to meet him before everything shut down. We never got to see Caleb play because it was later in the fall. But you watch Caleb's video, and like Easton, he fits the mold of the outfield that we're looking for. He can really run, can swing the bat, can hit it over your head. And for a high school kid, it's really difficult to evaluate outfield play because the ball has to be hit to you. And I've never received so many videos of ESPN type outfield plays from anybody as I have from Caleb Willis and his coach, and from John. So he can really, it looks like nothing drops in the outfield when he's out there. Another kid who we talk about being selfless as teammates and be humble as part of that, extremely humble player. And when he's on the field, he plays loud, He's a great teammate, hard worker, and we're really excited. He's got it in his blood too. I think his grandfather played for the Jets and the Redskins, so he's a natural born athlete, and we're really excited that Caleb's going to be part of the program.
Wow, yeah, natural blood in there. And then finally, last but not least, we have Michael Zarillo, a utility infielder from Atlanta, Georgia. My question to you is, how did you find Michael, and what attracted him to Lafayette?
Yeah, so Mike. And I gotta give a lot of credit. So in this, in the pandemic and with everything going on, we are still, we've been in a hiring freeze for a while, and we haven't been able to hire assistant coaches. So Coach John Lyons Harrison, who was our volunteer assistant last year, has stayed on, and he's done an incredible job digging guys out and finding names and talking to these guys and evaluating talent. So a lot of these guys, most of these guys that we're talking about, John, really found and was able to develop that relationship before I even made a connection. So he deserves a lot of credit in what I think is going to be a really talented recruiting class. But John started talking to Mike, and I got to watch some video on him. Mike is a switch hitting shortstop, infielder. He's another guy that when you watch the video, you go, wow. He's a really physical kid, very athletic kid, and he really hits well from both sides of the plate. Talking to his high school coach, he's from Holy Innocents Episcopal down in Atlanta, talking to his high school coach down there, and he played for Danny Prago in 643 down in Georgia, another program that we've had a lot of experience with in the past. Had a background with some guys who we trust, and really when we met with Mike and his parents over Zoom, again, a family that just fit in with what we were trying to do, had the right, really put a priority on academics, really put a priority on physical and baseball development. And the more we talked to Mike and the more we saw of him, the more we fell in love with what he can do on the field and what kind of player and person he is. He's one of those guys who, like everyone else that I've mentioned, I think is going to be a leader on the field, but also in the clubhouse, and just kind of help to keep developing us in the direction that we want.
Awesome. Great. Well, that was great, Tim. I just got one final question for you. I know this has been a tough year, but what can you say for the class as a whole? I know you haven't been able to see everyone in person. And my final part of this question is, could we see these guys making an immediate impact when we eventually return to K-Mine, whenever that may be?
Yeah. I mean, you always recruit guys with the thought that they're going to come in and help you win. So everybody that we've talked about and everybody in this class, I have high expectations for, just as I do everybody on our current roster. I think that there's always a learning curve. You have to come in and learn how we do things and what college baseball is all about, and we talked about that in the recruiting process and all the ways that we help develop you and get you through that hump. But I expect everybody to come in and help us win in the role that they are in freshman year. Some guys will come in and be immediate impacts on the field, fill holes of graduation, or places that we need to step it up. And other guys are going to come in and push those guys and develop into that role. So I think every single guy that we've recruited has an opportunity to make an impact on the field. But also, as I mentioned, they are all incredible people. And that's one of the big things that we recruit. And they're going to make huge impacts right away as soon as they step foot on campus. And they've already started to be honest with you.
Well, that's all what Lafayette's all about. It's about recruiting and getting the best of the best. Well, Tim, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
John, great to see you, man.
It's always great to see you, Tim, and hopefully we'll be back on the field soon. For the Lafayette Sports Network, this is John Sabino with Baseball Signing Day.